like a daddy Mac. Dan's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play option. Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
Mr. Dan, how you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Troy. I was just thinking Tuesday, and then what do you think comes to mind on Tuesdays? Taco Tuesday.
That's right, except for it's Wednesday, Dan.
Oh, that's see that
That's
age.
classic.
Once you get in the 60s, you have those the senior moments. That's right, Wednesday.
I've noticed that lately. I'm about a day behind in mine as well. It feels like a Thursday for me, so I guess I move forward.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what's going on. But
I'm
listen,
I'll late on Taco Tuesday.
If anybody has seen me in the last 6 months, I'll eat a taco on Wednesday. Say that. You look at my body, you say that guy eats tacos on Wednesday.
Tacos it's got to be one of the easiest, when you're like, if you're around the house, what should we have for dinner? It's an easy one, right?
Just throw some stuff in there.
Yeah.
It's good. Now, Dan, are you a seafood guy?
I am. I think more like you, because you were in Florida for the options conference.
Yeah.
And it just feels like sometimes, even though that's not a good excuse, when I'm near like an ocean, you feel like, okay, hey, this is the fresh stuff. You ought to order, seafood there. Sometimes in the local grocery stores, I'll get some and it's good. I know it's good to have some fish, right? Some salmon or cod.
Yeah.
But I like I don't know if you ever had the little, again, fish that tastes like meat, little more substance, like a swordfish. Or something like that. I enjoy those halibut or something with a little more texture to it. What do you like for?
I do like fish, and I could probably eat seafood every day.
Really?
I'm a big seafood guy, but I'm more of a shrimp, crab, lobster, crustacean.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of any of those things.
How about gumbo? Are you a big gumbo guy?
Grew up on gumbo. My family's from the Texas, Louisiana border, Texarkana area. So a little bit of Cajun.
Nice.
And my grandma makes the best gumbo in the world. I love her.
Wow.
Shout out, Momo.
Yeah.
She is not listening, I promise you.
Now, is it more spicy, the gumbo that
she doesn't make it real spicy, but she makes her own roux.
Okay.
Or whatever you call it. And it's like a very dark gumbo, but it is delicious. And she oversalts it, but I'm a big fan of oversalting. So to me, it's the best thing ever.
I agree. I see Castle mentioned.
Castle likes the oysters.
Oysters are good. I'll tell you one thing from the Midwest I remember. I only did it once or twice. We grew up in Chicago, but in Wisconsin, they'd have these legendary, you'd go out there and you say, what do you do on a Friday night or whatever? Fish boils. And they'd take, you'd go all out there like a campfire, I guess, and you'd have the big pot and you throw everything but the kitchen sink in there. And, it tastes good. I mean, whatever they put in there, it was all the different vegetables, potatoes, fish. Did you ever been
never been to a fish bowl. I would love to. I've had some homemade fish bowls, doing some like kayaking.
Oh, nice.
And we'll catch a bunch of fish and then get back to the campsite and cook it up. But here's with the vegetable stuff. I was always that guy that's kind of like secretly moving the vegetables back into the pot. You get them and then you just kind of empty them back into the pot. So, anyway, but listen, we have a couple different things happening right now. Western Conference is underway.
Yes.
If you're in Oklahoma City, who would have thought that basketball would be good for you guys, but it's good for you guys. So
The epicenter of basketball, Oklahoma City.
Geez. I guess, congratulations. All the world's oil supply and basketball.
That's right.
Now, speaking of real quick, just to tie this in, Dan, do you remember when oil went negative? This was during COVID.
I don't remember, but I should. So I'll say,
oil futures went negative.
Wow.
So they would pay you to take supply.
Wow. I don't remember that. Wow.
Of oil. And I think it got maybe negative $20-$30, which futures is a leveraged product. So,
yeah.
And my dumb self, I told Melissa, I have 3 acres in Knoxville.
Yeah.
I told Melissa, I think I'm going to have to build an oil reservoir. She said, what are you talking about? I said, this is the ultimate arbitrage opportunity. They will pay me to take this oil.
They will pay me to take this oil.
But what I did, I realized then later that you actually, I think, have to have space in Cushing.
Space in what?
Cushing, Oklahoma.
Oh.
Apparently is where they store all the oil.
I didn't know that. Okay.
They won't just deliver it to your house. They will deliver it to Cushing, apparently.
So you have to live in Cushing, Oklahoma.
Well, or you have to own thing. But it was a big deal because apparently the reason they were doing that is that all the oil, no one was buying gas during COVID. And so all the oil reservoirs were full.
Okay.
And so they were people renting boats, renting vessels, and storing it out in the ocean.
Wow.
Until you could do it. So I missed out a huge arbitrage opportunity.
Troy, you could have been walking around with cowboy boots and a cowboy
Oh my
hat.
gosh. My ancestors would have been so proud of me. It really would have been a Beverly Hillbilly situation.
That's right.
But anyway, no one would come to my house because of the fear of an oil spill. But
that's right.
Besides that, it would have been fine.
I love it.
Who needs people coming to your house? Anyway, all right. Well, listen, Dan, we are continuing our journey. The Castle's put a tarp in the bed.
I saw that. I like that.
That's good. That's good. I too, this is one more caveat. I have looked into, because I have an F-150, I had looked into, there's liners that you can get and make a hot tub in your bed.
Wow.
Just during the winter, fill her up, let it heat up.
Why not?
I mean, so Dan, if I pull up to your house one day,
I'm in.
You hop in?
Oh, absolutely.
Do some business.
Back of an F-150.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, guys,
I'll tell you real quick, Trey.
Oh, please.
You mentioned the F-150, right? And I used to go to, we would drive when we were young, when I was younger with the kids, and we'd go to Oklahoma City. Our niece lived there. And once we got out there, maybe 20 miles from Oklahoma City, and as we go in, I go, wow, do they have a law that everybody has to have like an F-150? I mean, I've never saw more. I would love per capita per state. Does anybody have more pickups versus Oklahoma City? I mean,
I've spent summers in Dallas. And I kid you not, there have been days in like the country of Dallas, the country part of Dallas. There have been entire days where I did not see a sedan.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it is only.
I've never seen anything like that. It's like more pickups.
My Mr. Dan has rode in my F-150. Yeah. My wife says that I've destroyed that truck because of my actions, but I disagree.
I don't know how you destroy an F-150. I don't know if that's possible.
It's built Ford tough.
It is.
It's built Ford tough. Speaking of being built Ford tough, we're trying to build a small account truck that's built tough. And if Ford wants to sponsor this, reach out. Would love to. We're big Ford guy here. Yeah. Looking at the Lightning. Happy to put a Ford logo on this whole thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So anyway. We're going to be looking at a Wednesday trade, but this one's a little different. So remember, we're looking at DCs this week. Just to review, head knowledge. What is a double calendar, Dan? What is it? What are we even talking about?
Double calendar is a very, I just thought of the term wide umbrella. It's a small term trade where you get lots of room, and generally you would want implied volatility to increase. So you may be selling, the foundation of a double calendar is a short strangle. You're selling an out of the money call and an out of the money put. And when you do it short term, you hear that's the decay, rapid decay. You're selling maybe, if you sell a 20 delta call or put, just for an example, there's only a 20% probability we're going to close beyond those shorts. So it's a high probability trade. It's it's like an iron condor type trade. And then you buy your longs, same strike, a further out expiration, and you can pick, depending on volatility. That's how I usually will do it. But it's a fun trade, and especially I think in the world of shorter term trades, it's one of the most effective trades I've seen. But on the other hand, as Troy has mentioned before, and Matt, it's not a beginner strategy, right? And I think mixed month trades are a little bit, wouldn't you say, Troy, mixed month spreads are a little tougher to understand than same month spread, like a butterfly or a credit spread. It works, it doesn't challenge the brain cells as much because everything's in the same expiration, like a credit spread and a butterfly. Your break evens don't change. The vols they kind of work, make sense. But when you're buying a further out, like a mixed month spread, like a calendar, double calendar, that second, where you're buying your longs could be a little different shenanigans than your shorts, the skews. And I think you just have to get used to that a little bit and understand it. And that's all it is, I think, getting used to it. But I think they're a high probability trade. And, they've, on one hand, you would like to do them in a low vol environment. And, it's kind of contradicting. It's like that commercial with I don't know if you ever saw the commercial with the Italian guy at the bar. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? It's like, when you think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You say on one hand, yes, I'd like to do a double calendar when the volatility, when VIX is 10 or 12 from a volatility perspective. Yes. And then the vols go up, all of that. But on the other hand, you're saying out of the other side of the mouth, you're saying, but you know what? When they really, really do well is when the vols are high.
That's right.
But they stay up because, again, in a double calendar, the higher the volatility, the wider your break evens. And so it looks like impossible to lose. And that is a great scenario as long as we remember, it's like musical chairs when the music stops. As long as the vols stay up, a high vol environment could be absolutely euphoria for double calendars. But if you're in a downdraft of volatilities, what does that do to your graph? Your graph's like an iron. What does it do to your graph? It pushes in the break evens and it squashes the T+0 line. So it's like, it takes your breath away. So I think it's as long as you understand it and get used to it. But I think overall, that's why I like the mechanical trading with all strategies, but especially with the double calendar, because let the probabilities, you got the probabilities, hang in there, my friend, as they say. So
no, that's exactly right. I think a DC, I think of it as like an arranged marriage. There's
arranged marriage.
There's things you're going into it with that you're hopeful about, but they're kind of out of your control a little bit. Some variables that are out of your control.
Yeah.
But you might get some days where vol is high, and that is like they unveil the lady, and she's most beautiful lady in the world, and you're like, oh, forget about that, forget about it, and then to Tom's point, and then they might unveil, and you are more on the John Travolta side. You're like, oh my god. So, anyway, Really, this whole show exists at this point just for me to be able to do Italian.
Just for him to weave in Travolta.
Yeah, Travolta and Sylvester.
Sylvester, that's right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, just so you know, right before the show, no, was it you or no? I think it was someone at Panera in the morning. He's like, I'm going to go home. This guy, Chris, he goes, I go, what are you going to do when you go home? He goes, yeah, because I think he works for like ESPN or something in the video. He goes, I have a little bit of time. I'm going to go home and watch The Godfather. How many people would say to you at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go home and watch The Godfather? I haven't seen that in like a month or something. It's like,
oh yeah, it's been hours since I
watched The Godfather.
Well, listen, so we're going to be talking about DC. So here we go. Here is the trade. Thank you. I like that everybody's researching now the truck boxes that would hold water. So here's the trade we're talking about today. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a Qs. We're staying in the Qs. And this is a double calendar that you can both put on Wednesdays, but you can also put on Mondays. And we are doing that in this trade. We're opening it Mondays and Wednesdays. And we're opening the trade at 3:30 p.m. We're using the exact DTE, right? So it has to be a 2-7. And we're using one contract. And we've talked about this every day. Just to recap, test it with both. You can test with uncapped because you can say, well, capped is not going to show you the full drawdown risk. Well, uncap it and see. And we'll show that here in a second. But we're doing it capped because the whole premise of this is we want to build confidence for people who have small accounts, who are just now getting into trading, who SPX, it's just too big a product for them. And so they want to start small. And so this is a test where you can start small. But as you can see, it doesn't mean necessarily that the trade has to be bad. In fact, these are good trades, we would argue. And so what are we looking at here? We're looking at the Q's double calendar. That's the put is a 20 delta, 2-day out. So you're every Monday, Wednesday at 3:30, you're selling a 20 delta 2-day out put, and you're buying the same strike 7 days out. So this one's a little weird. It's a 2-7. It's not any of these 1-2s or 2-4s or anything like that. We've got a little bit of time between these spreads. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that in a second because, well, actually, let's save that for tomorrow because it actually is. Tomorrow we'll be looking at one that has even more time between the spreads. And so, but then the call is a 15 delta, 2-day out, and you buy a call 7 days after that. You have 3 guardrails. You are exiting the trade the day of expiration. So if it's Monday, expiration is Wednesday. If it's Wednesday, expiration is Friday. You're closing it at 3:30 because we do not want to get assigned 4 million shares of Skew. We are exiting when the stop loss ratio is 0.1. We'll talk more about stop loss ratio another day, but basically it is your short premium divided by your long premium. It's a way of trying to make sure that you're getting enough juice in the shorts. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. We've got tons of videos on this stuff. You can look through it. But in short, when you see short loss ratios, short long ratio, it's shorts ratio divided by the long ratio. So, and then exit using leg deltas. Let's look at those leg deltas real quick. And this is pretty much exactly the same thing as yesterday, but they're just different times and different spreads. So this is a 20 delta, and we're exiting when it goes above 70 delta, which that means it's going to be in the money. But we talked about this yesterday. It's okay sometimes for these things to be in the money, depending on where we're at in the life of the trade. You don't want it to be anywhere near the money when you first put this on. As time passes, and I would argue maybe when T+1 is getting pretty close, you want to, when expiration is getting pretty close, you want it to move towards these strikes. So these are like magnets. Think of a double calendar like a pole. You want it to expel the price away from the poles when it first opens, and you want to draw the price towards the poles, towards the close. I don't understand magnets, but hopefully smarter people than me get what I just said. Yeah. Probably something about polarized, the flux capacitor. You get what I'm saying. The 15 delta call, you're going to get out when you're below 60, negative 60 delta. We've got $1 for opening, and then slippage, we're assuming 1 cent getting in, 2 cent getting out. That could be wrong. And people have commented on this and saying, well, that's way too, that's not conservative enough. Could be. It could be. You would have to play around with this. And I would argue with automation, eventually what you'll get is if you monitor the spreads and you monitor the slippage, you'll get a good accurate one. And you can go back and test. And that's the way we encourage people to do it. Dan, first thoughts about this?
Yeah, a couple thoughts here. And, first, when you talk about a double calendar 2-7, right? And you could think of what comes to your mind. When would you do something like that? What are your thoughts on it? Part of what comes to my mind on a 2-7 is, when would I do a 2-7, or when would I like a 2-7? Obviously, it's a little more expensive when you do a 2-7. And I would tend to be a little more excited to have more room between the long and the short when the implied volatilities are lower, or it just lower in the range. It could be like right now we're in a high range, right? The current VIX, we're in a higher range like 2022. So 17, 18 is in the higher range of this higher range, but lower vol. When I'm more confident with the vol levels, I like a little more distance. But here's something else, Troy. People don't, I think, look at enough. We have this concept of theoretical theta, right? When people look at a double calendar, they say, look at this thing. I could get 15% in one day. If you look at the theta divided by the cost of the double calendar, you say, they're telling me I'm going to make 15% in a day. Well,
right.
There's a big difference between theoretical Greeks or theoretical theta and actual. And what you've noticed, if you've done many double calendars or single calendars, you'll notice that in a lot of ways, even though the Greeks might not look as good, when you take your long and take it further out from your short, as I call it, it lets the short breathe a little bit, right? I don't know any other better way, right? The Greeks will look better on like a 2-4 maybe or something like that. But when you get to a 2-7, you're basically it's the pure selling of the option. Your long is far enough out, right? And especially if you're comfortable with that volatility level that it won't go down that much. It really, those shorts, when they decay, the longs aren't getting in the way. So I like that from the 2-7. Again, as always with this trade with a DC, you're always going to have a good win percentage. You agree? It's always going to have a good win percentage. The other thing I want to say about slippage, the other thing that came to my mind, you mentioned you have less slippage in here than you would put in SPX, right? Which I would do. I mean, when you think about Qs or SPY, yeah, I would think a little bit, I would put the slippage less because it's going to be less. Agree, right? I mean, it's going to be like, in SPY, it could be a 0.01 or Qs, but SPX is just a bigger vehicle. So, but it's the same thing in a way, right? 0.01 in SPY is 0.10 in SPX, right? They're 10 times difference. Yeah. And normally you'd think you can get a fill 10 cents from the mid. But again, I think people, just one quick thing on execution, there is no such thing when people say, I didn't get filled at the mid price. And I'm like, well, how did you determine the mid price? When you turn your computer on and there is no such thing as a mid price. That's a fallacy. There's a mid range. And if I'm going to do a double calendar, I'm going to watch it for 30 seconds. It's a debit transaction and see where are the most occurrences happening in those 30 seconds. And obviously it's great. The Options Omega tool does it. I don't have to, they're looking at the occurrences. Isn't that why you come up with, Troy, when you're more of you call it the Punisher, you want to explain it, 3 hits.
2 hits.
2 hits at that price, right?
Yeah, if you set a profit target in Option Omega, there are certain types of spreads that the mid is all over the place. And so one of the ways we account for that is let's say, just for here, real quick, put a 1% profit target just to show it. we have at the bottom here, and what we call the Punisher section, require 2 hits at consecutive hits at profit target. And so what we're going to do in the backtester is we're going to say only exit the trade when the profit is hit for, we look at 2 time intervals. So it has to be two minutes in a row. And then we'll take that first one and hit whatever the price was and get out. But it's a way of saying, hey, let's at least try to make sure that this profit was a little bit more realistic than what we're seeing.
I love that. It's reality. Yeah.
Because if you put a butterfly on or something like that, you and have monitored it, like butterflies. I mean, your brokerage is like, you're up 600, you're down 6,000, you're up 200, you're down 300.
That's right.
Like at all times, and none of that's real.
Right.
And so, yeah, for sure. One of the things I wanted to show real quick, Dan, is to your point about IV. Now, we're not showing the leg IVs in this, but the VIX, I'll use VIX as a proxy to kind of get to your point a little bit. You can see here, let's use this. This is the opening VIX price, okay, for this trade in February of this year. And VIX was 1586. And so this spread cost you about $1.87 to put on when the VIX was 15. Okay. Let's go up to the extreme here.
Yeah.
Of let me go back one. Where's a good one? 48. This was put on when VIX was 48. Well, you're paying 566 for that spread.
Yeah.
And that's just going to show you that, when vols are, this is not just unique to calendars. I mean, obviously, if you're selling a condor, when VIX is 48, that's a lot different than when VIX is 15.
Yeah.
But because you're long Vega, to Dan's point, you are nervous in high VIX environments that it will not stick, because the moment it doesn't stick, you're in trouble with that high vol.
Well, if it sticks, it's euphoria. So it's like,
if it's,
what an experience. It's like whitewater rafting or something. Absolutely. You're like,
well, and in this case, if you see here, it stuck. Vol was up actually when you took it off. And so that worked out quite well for you. This one's even better to show in that point. You opened this for 319, VIX was at 32. You got out when VIX was 39. So that's a big vol expansion.
Oh yeah.
And you did really, really well. To the point of what Dan's talking about here, we put it on when VIX is 34. We got out when VIX was 30. And as you can see, that was a loser. What's happening? Well, vol's getting sucked out, and that's not good for your long Vega trade.
No. And if you look at you brought up a good point. I was just thinking, if you look at VIX today, it looks like VIX is going to be opening up around 19 or a little higher, which makes sense. ES is, down a bit, going near the 5,900 level again. But when you look at, to me and you said, hey, what do you think about the prospect of double calendars through July? If someone said to me, and I would say, okay, let's look at the next 2 months. The next 2 months, and isn't there a lot of tariff stuff that comes due in July? July is historically a big earnings. I would say the prospects of double calendars, some of those mixed month spreads are above average over the next 2 months. And if someone said why, I'd say because I'm looking at the volatility and the range comparing it to 2022, when the range in VIX was maybe most of the year 18 to 31. I think maybe the low somewhere around 16 and a half, at least through the next 2 months. But if you said to me the high, I don't know, 30, it could be 35, could be lower. But I think we're not that far off. I mean, sure, anything can happen, but I don't think we're going to 12 or 15. So if you're in a scenario where it's basically, you don't have that much volatility risk, your double calendars are going to look good from a volatility, and the break evens are just going to get wider, right? And so it overall is going to be a good experience. Does it mean you're going to win every trade? No, but again, you're doing a high probability trade with the vols starting, staying up. You're not so worried about a massive volatility crush. So I think in Qs or SPY or ES, and I wish there was more liquidity choice, or not ES, SPX, choice, XSP. That's the, anyways, but it's, now what are you saying, the drawdown on this one, Troy?
Oh, so this is what I was showing to the point of yesterday. I think it's always good to test it uncapped too. So we had tested it with one contract max. This is what happens if you, with all due respect, we're not smart, and you said I'm going to put all of my eggs in this basket. Well, theoretically, and again, theoretically, it's very important because it's not reality. That's a good differentiation. You would do fine, and so but you would do fine if you could stomach a 76% drawdown.
Yeah.
And that's, so that's sizing is important, but I like to show those just to show this doesn't turn negative the higher percentage you get. And that's just a sign of a good trade. Then it just gets to the question of, can you stomach a drawdown? And then that's how you look at these things. But a couple things in the chat before we clear out for the day. Would the parameters be the same if we did this on SPX? I mean, you'll have to look and see. We're tailoring these to Qs, but I'm sure there are plenty of concepts that would work as well. Maybe different times, things like that. Two, Tom is all in on VIX calls based on Dan's financial advice over the next 6 months. So,
take that with a grain of salt. Yeah, and I think July is earnings also. And, I'm more comfortable getting a little bit of long VIX at maybe, if you said to me, levels of 16 to 17. But I just think, again, I'm not saying anything profound. I think that 12, 13, 14, 15, when you say, Troy, you follow volatility as much as anybody. Would you bet that we'll hit 15 VIX by middle of July?
Man, that's a good question. No.
Okay. I mean, not that it couldn't, but it's
but it could, but I don't think, because July's coming up. I mean, in the span of a
couple months.
So, I mean, I think you'd have to have basically equities would have to take the next move higher. To all-time highs, and all of the unknowns of tariffs would have to be removed.
Yeah, and I think one thing I'll just throw out there, you can. So from a volatility, it doesn't mean you can't get hurt on volatility in a double calendar with VIX at 19. You can some, but I'm not worried about the crushing necessarily, right? Necessarily on that come down. The other thing I just want to throw out there, just for maybe this would be a future one, but I'm thinking of, if you were concerned at some point with the volatility, I don't know if people have tested much, but when you think about the concept of a double calendar, right? You're buying the strike the same as your shorts. If you do a double diagonal, which would be, you'd call it what, Troy, like an outside. Your longs are just going to go, instead of buying your out of the money call and put, or your call and put at the same strike, you're going to go a little bit further out of the money. So you're buying less extrinsic value, right? If you buy a little bit more out of the money on the calls, as you would with a double calendar, a little bit more out of the money on the puts, then you're buying less extrinsic value. So you'll fare better if volatility comes down, but it's going to be more expensive, number one. And number two, you won't do as well if there is a move, right? Right. So double diagonals versus double calendars are going to give you better faring if volatilities go down, but they're going to cost more, number one. And number two, if you do have a move, they have a little bit more short gamma, meaning your deltas will go against you more. So the double calendar, pound for pound, it's like when you hear those, Troy, this fighter is the best pound. I love how they used to say that pound for pound. Yeah, they would like, there's a lot of different weights, but pound for pound, he's the best fighter in the world. I'd say out of all the double strategies, double calendar, double diagonal, double long diagonal, on and on, pound for pound, the double calendar is the best fighter in the double business. I don't know.
That's
pound for pound.
Yeah, he's the best 42-pound fighter you'll ever see.
Don't you love that?
If there was another 42-pound fighter, he would destroy.
Yeah,
that's.
I'm not sure how that helps you in a bar fight if you're 42 pounds. Even if you're
that's exactly right. General Zod, I guess we might want to skip this today due to Memorial Day. We'll test that. I know that in the. And I think I've had the blackout dates in this one as well, although my memory fades as to what those blackout dates were. But my guess is, I think, in general, shortened weeks it messes the vol regime up a little bit as far as double calendars. So you don't want to. It's up to you. You can do whatever you want. But I think there's some people who have back tested and realized that shortened weeks aren't great for DCs. So test it, but that'd be my hunch. So I'm not to talk my book. I'm not trading any of these this week because of that. So, all right, guys, listen, we got 2 more tests to show. Tomorrow's going to get a little wonky because Thursdays are known for not having great back tests, DCs at least. But we're going to show one that works. So get excited for that. But Dan, have a great trading day.
Thanks, you too, Troy.
And we will